www.scottkyle.co.uk. All the list of all the tour dates are on there, and people will find tickets there.
Right, that's good. That is good.
Well, that would be excellent if it comes anywhere near me. Where in London will it be on?
So we're playing the Old Red Lion Theatre in London.
Right.
I'm told it's very famous, it's very well known, and we are there for 2 weeks. So we're there kind of 2 weeks in London, and then we go to Belfast. The Girls is a female version of the show. It's a female cast, an all-female cast, and they're also doing a couple of nights in London as well as part of that. And then we're on to come back up to Glasgow. We're playing a 1,500 seater in Glasgow, which is sold out. And then they say we're all over Scotland, predominantly kick off in Scotland, and then we come back down to England. We're going to Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland. We don't have a Welsh date yet, but we're keen to take it to Wales as well. And then my ambition and aspiration for the show is to take it to America, Canada, Australia. We're obviously doing the Edinburgh Festival this year. That's where you sell the show. So you go to the Edinburgh International Festival, and all the theatres from all the world are coming there looking for the next big show. And we're hoping that I'd like to play the Sydney Opera House, or Madison Square Garden. That'd be nice.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and you mentioned the female cast. Isn't there an equivalent female version of the show, like She's No Billy, spelt Billie?
Yeah,
isn't it a bit different?
It's slightly different in the sense that obviously it's from the female point of view, but essentially it's the same storyline of the two football fans being arrested on the day of the football and end up in a prison cell, and in that version of it they happen to be females. So there's the usual humour and jokes and stuff that come from a female's point of view as opposed to the male point of view. But it's very, very good. The cast are really good, and they were already brilliant, the cast, but they're benefiting from the experience of the male cast who've done the show a lot, so we can share all our stories of when it didn't work as well, to make sure they're learning not to make the mistakes we made when we did it the first time round.
Yeah, sort of the outtakes and stuff like that. I mean, with the show, that the script that Emmy wrote, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't it? And then the lockdown happened, which kind of stopped us doing anything. And then he asked me to write some song tracks for it, which I did, 9 songs, very much reflective of the dialogue. And I would say, I mean, and I've said it to Emmy before, it's an excellent script about a ballerina who leaves, I believe it's Lithuania, to come to be a prima ballerina over in this country. And anyway, it's a very interesting story, and I just have a real feeling that it could succeed. I mean, everybody may say that about their own stuff, but I think together it would make a very good musical. And it is difficult to know where to begin. I mean, and you say put it on. Obviously, we'd need to be thinking about the role players, people who are going to play the parts, and where we would put it on. I mean, you mentioned you would put it on in some pubs and things like that originally.
Yeah. Most of with the shows I try and build, we always start rehearsing, and we kind of do warm-up shows. We normally go to the local pubs and the bars and smaller theatres to get feedback, as I say, because you won't get it all right in the rehearsal room. The audience tell you what's working or not. The audience tell you if it's funny or not. It's very hard to make those decisions in the rehearsal room, because what you think is funny might not be funny, and what you don't think is funny might be funny. So there's lots of things like that. So yeah, a big thing. I mean, you can arrange a reading. It costs no money to do a reading, Go to a local venue, say, look, we want to do a reading. Can we do a reading and invite people along? And you might get buy-in from people. You might get people that want to sponsor and support it. And then once you've kind of built your confidence up, you start booking maybe the arts centre's a good place to start in the smaller theatres. And build up from there. From the arts centre, smaller theatres, and then the big theatres.
Do you still run your own theatre company?
Yeah, so my company's called NLP Theatre Company. That name came about from a kind of way of thinking that I tried to believe in and go with at college, and it was no limit people. So we didn't have a touring theatre van, we didn't have any experience of doing it, but we had to believe that there were no limits in what we were capable of doing. And obviously we graduated from college and we went out and built the biggest show in Scotland. And maybe if we had kept the rights to the show for longer, it might have been one of the biggest shows in the UK. Now that's the challenge. The challenge now is to put it back on the road and see if we can make it even more successful than the first time round.
Yeah. And you keep all your actors, do you? They don't disappear on you. I guess people want auditions. You give them auditions for parts.
Yeah, so well, depends if we are casting or producing shows. Over the years, I've produced pantomimes and stuff. I had six pantomimes at one point. I had 6 teams in the UK performing simultaneous pantomimes throughout the country. That was a big stress when the snow arrives and you've got 6 teams that they all need their wages, and if the snow's on, you can't do the show. So lots of stress stuff in doing that side of the business. But yeah, we would cast for that. Like I said, this show, we're using the cast from the previous show. So Colin Little, who's playing Tim in the show, and James Miller, who's playing Harry, did it with me over a decade ago. So it's the original cast from the show that are getting back together again. We're a bit older, but I'm not so sure the characters are any wiser.
That's great. Sounds great.
You know, I was thinking, I think it's the lottery that funds the Arts Council or something about the lottery and Arts Council for funding. How do you had any success with that?
There is funding available. It depends on how you set up your company. I set my company up as a sole trader first time round. I didn't have any joy with the funding. Loads of people do funding in different ways, and they set up their companies in different ways. A lot of the time with the funding, artistically it can be challenging because you're applying for the funding and you have to do what they want to fund. So artistically, I find that quite challenging. I'd like to have funding and then be able to do the creative project I want to do. Sometimes you're having to meet a criteria. So maybe it's to target certain age range of audiences, certain classes of audiences, it's to do certain things. And that's not how I like to get creative. I don't like to get creative meeting a criteria. So yeah, but there are funding avenues out there for people to pursue. A lot of the companies set up as charities to do that, and they can be quite successful at. I started out as a sole trader, and now we've set up a limited company for the new tour.
Oh, that's great. I was just thinking about social media, Scott. So what sort of effects does social media have on a production company like yours? So there's TikTok where you can get loads of things. Do you get involved in TikTok, or you just solely?
In terms of social media, so I did a TV show as an actor called Outlander, an American TV show, which is pretty big in the States. And as a result of that, I ended up with over 500,000 Twitter followers. So I've got a huge following on social media. The nice thing with that is I met that audience through Outlander, but they've supported me in all my other projects. So they've supported me on the stage shows. When I've been working in theatres, they've supported me with a war movie that I was in called Kijaki, a British war movie. I did a movie by Ken Loach called Angel Share as well. And the nice thing is that audience that you meet through these projects, they cross over and they support various projects. So yeah, social media is a great tool for posting and stuff. I do find that the algorithms are there to stop you really marketing. So if I've got 500,000 Twitter followers, if I put up that we're going to London to do the show and I put the date, the time, and the price, I think Elon Musk's algorithms stop me reaching 500,000 people because that's what he wants you to pay for, doesn't it? He wants you to pay to reach that audience. So if I put up the neighbour's cat, they'll all get to see about the neighbour's cat. But as soon as I put up a poster about the show, I think the algorithm's going to put a wee blocker on it.
Yeah.
So it's useful, but I think they want you to spend money to advertise on it.
Yeah. Because I was just thinking.
I was going to ask you about Outlander, because that surely was a massive break for you to get on such a huge show, huge program.
Yeah,
I mean, even I've got it on DVD, so a very impressive thing to have got on.
Yeah, well, we filmed it in Scotland, which was great, and the landscape of Scotland essentially is like a character in the show. It's such an important part of the story and the journey of the characters. So it was nice to kind of travel down to Cumbernauld, which is, I don't know, maybe half an hour drive in the car down to the film studios and to work there. And obviously we filmed at different locations throughout Scotland. I'm not saying I wouldn't have liked to have went to LA to film it. If the studios were filming it in LA, that'd be nice as well. But it was nice to come home at the end of a long day and sleep in your own bed as opposed to being. We did the war movie. We did that in Jordan, and we were in a hotel for 6 weeks, which it's nice to have your own bed. So as much as the hotel is very nice, sometimes it's nice to be in your own bed.
And of
Yeah.
course, it opened up more doors for you. You've done the films you mentioned, haven't you? Presumably
Yeah,
since Outlander. Yeah.
Outlander, as I said, that the following on the social media alone was over 500,000 just on my personal
Yeah.
Twitter. So that's been phenomenal. And as I say, I've ran Cayley nights in Scotland, and Outlander fans have travelled all over the world to come to the events that I've run. I've run events in Canada. We ran a big Cayley night in Canada and Florida. And we've been invited to Germany and France and all over the world to Comic Cons and conventions as well to meet the fans, which has been fantastic as well. And something I don't think you quite, when you set out to do, when I went to college, it wasn't to be in a big TV show, and it was to try and improve my
Yeah.
life and improve my opportunities, and that's exactly what it's done. Acting's been fantastic in terms of improving the opportunities. Lots of life learning, some amazing people I've met over the years. Worked with some amazing, big stars and stuff. Kind of Oscar winners and BAFTA winners. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
No, good for you. That's great.
Yeah. I was just thinking about um acting as a sort of an industry. Is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I was just thinking about how can someone get into it? So get into the acting.
Well, as I shared earlier on, when I was at college, I've seen a lot of actors going to studying for 2, 3 years and then graduating, and they couldn't get in. It's very hard to break in. If you imagine, there's universities and colleges churning out new actors all the time. I remember reading a Harrison Ford quote, and he said, "You have to outlast the people you come in on the bus with." And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Is that um, acting is as much about what you're doing when you're not acting, I think, as it is when you are acting. Because my friend Umar is a fellow actor, and he describes it as acting as a succession of jobs. It's not a career; it's a succession of jobs, and I quite like that. I quite like that you go from one project. Like I did it in the Angels Share. You're a movie star. You're in the movie. You go to the red carpet, and in the next week, you don't have a job. So what you're going to do with your time? How are you going to spend it? And then so I create my own work. That's my own production company. I do my own things that fills the gaps in between movies and TV and theatre shows. So I think that's really important. And as I said to you guys, I think creating your own work is really important, and being able to produce and put on your own things. Because if you want to be seen in things, sometimes you have to create your own opportunities.
Wow.
Yeah. Just to say that I've just been on a holiday with the family, particularly took our my granddaughters, and Lucy. It was her 21st birthday out there a couple of weeks ago, or last week, in fact. And we went. She was desperate to see Hamilton on stage on Broadway, which we did, and was a real experience. She's just finished 4 years of college, performing arts, and she's in September. She's going to uni in Chichester, actually, to study a 3-year BA honours course in performing arts. I forget the whole title. And she's had some auditions and she's got into one or two, but she's very desperately keen. One thing I would just ask you about, as to your opinion, one of the places she wanted to go, actually, we went there on her birthday in New York, was a place called Stardust. And it's a restaurant. I don't know whether it's a restaurant chain, but basically they only hire singers, would be actors, singers, music people, and it was brilliant. It's like a 2-level restaurant, huge queues, lines of people outside, of which we were out there initially. But the waiters and waitresses, every so often, one of them comes onto the tables and they start singing. They take the mic. It's like an open mic night, really, with a good track backing them. But the quality was really up there with the West End in London or Broadway. It was quite superb, and they're only hired if they're good enough to be hired for something like that. And there's a long waiting list of would-be actors and musicians to join them. Is that something you've ever experienced or heard about, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of actor friends that do different jobs. Kind of, yeah. A lot of people are musicians. They play music. They teach. A lot of actors do teaching. I do a bit of teaching myself. So there's a lot of other avenues that come out of it. and some people want to do very, very well in those pursuits, you know, whether it be, as I say, teaching or online things, or a lot of people work on the cruise ships and entertain on the cruise ships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's the joy of it, is it's how you choose to do it, what you like to do it. My kind of job outside of acting, I like to work in the theatres, because that's the industry. I like to be supporting them, and if I can make the theatres better, there's more chance for actors to get jobs, including myself. So that's what I like to do. So I've managed a theatre for 5 years. I've been the programme manager for the 8 different theatres over the years, and that's booking in the shows and speaking to the producers, negotiating the deals and stuff. And that's something I really enjoy doing. And it's nice to bring shows to local towns that wouldn't maybe normally be coming to those areas. But yeah, everybody's got something else that they put their talent towards and their drive towards while they're waiting on the phone call from Spielberg.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody is.
So what would be your best, say for instance, somebody wanted to offer you an acting job, what would be the one that you'd be most excited about? What sort of category would you be?
I don't know. I'm quite an inspired person, and I like the idea that some of the stuff I've seen that's inspired me is inspirational. I'd like to maybe make stuff like that. So I quite like doing public speaking. I like sharing my story. So anything that would maybe be uplifting. I love watching a lot of the movies that are based on true life. One that comes to mind now is the Freedom Writers movie, which is a true story, and it's about a high school teacher. Those are the sort of or Coach Carter. I don't know if you know the movie with Samuel Jackson of Coach Carter. It's another true story. Stuff like that I like watching. So I'd maybe like to do something like that. But I think everybody's got a different philosophy and outlay and what their belief system. I believe in a higher power looking out for me and steering me in the right direction. So I don't watch anything on the TV or the films and think, I wish that was me. I trust that I'm on the right path. I'm going in the right direction, and the opportunities that I'm going to get are already laid out. And I trust that I'll get the right roles for me. I've got to be really honest. When I look back at my CV and the movies that I've been in and the TV shows and the stage shows, I'm really proud of everything I've done. There's nothing on there I think, oh, that's a stinker. I wish I hadn't done that. There's no movies out there, and I hold my head in my hands and go, oh, I don't want to be in that movie. I'm very proud of all the work. So I think that's a blessing. But I think that's also down to being able to make choices, being in a position to make choices, as opposed to just being desperate to do anything. I love storytelling, but I know there's certain stories I want to tell, and certain stories I'm great at telling, and other ones that stretch me, and other ones I wouldn't want to tell. There's certain stuff that doesn't really, like, I don't like slasher movies or anything, stuff like that. It's not really my cup of tea. I like inspirational and positive stuff, things that make you feel good. I like a Tom Cruise movie, that sort of thing, that you come out the cinema and you're high-fiving and want to go and
You mentioned the slasher movie, and it's not the best thing to ask you about, but I did notice you were attacked once, you in a fight or something, and it could have killed you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was when I was very young. So growing up in Glasgow, I cover this in my book. So I've been writing a book for 5 years.
That when we come back, is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna